Hello, yes, that's right. It's Joe here live for Joyrider TV, back with some more scintillating Q&A, where I'm going to be tackling some of your most fierce catamaran sailing questions. And today, just to break with what I usually do, I'm going to jump straight in with the first preloaded question because I've got quite a few today. So I'm going to jump straight in. This one is from Declan on Patreon, and Declan asks, this is a good one, you'll like this. When reconditioning a boat, what do you recommend to bring black anodized aluminium on the mast and the booms and any other anodized parts back to their former glory? This was quite a tricky one because it's not something I do so often. So I actually did some research on the internet for what products are very good for restoring your anodized aluminium. So before we can go through the restoring of that anodized aluminium, we need to give it a good clean. And having done some research, I was quite pleased because the internet agrees that what I've made a video on this, I think it was about 3 years ago, where I made a special mast cleaning formula, let's call it, which is basically a big jug of vinegar, just regular vinegar, and then after emptied about half of it, filled it with lemons, let it sit for a couple of weeks, and then used that to clean the mast. I called it my salad dressing mast cleaner, and that really does a great job in cleaning the mast to start with. And then so that would be the first stage: clean the mast, give it a good hose down, get any salt, anything off it, and then use some salad dressing, mast cleanup, or anything else, but just some soap would do it as well, with a fairly what would you call it, a fairly mild scrubber would probably help, like you'd use to do your washing up, and then dry it off. And then comes the product, and the product that really stood out for me when I was doing my research is called Everbright. There we go, Everbright. It claims to bring your anodized aluminium back to a very good state. I also came across some information about removing the anodization on your metal parts using some sort of drain cleaner. This seems quite extreme, but perhaps if you've got a mast which looks really, really bad because it's been battered for so long, quite old, maybe using this removing the anodization technique, obviously try it on a small area first. Maybe you've got a little bit of anodized aluminium that isn't actually on your boat, which you could try it on. But that seemed like quite a tempting option as well, just to take the mast back to how it was before it was anodized. Who knows? It might make it look rather nice or might ruin it. So well worth testing it on a small area first. There we go. So that was question number 1 from Declan. And I think at this stage in the game, I'll check in with everybody who's checking in the live chat. First, we've got Benny from sunny Sweden checking in. Nice to have you with us, Benny. Also in Europe, we've got Kevin, who's in Germany. Great to have you on board there, Kevin. We're off to Maui, where we have Ryan, the sailor, of course, of Honeycat, who, if you've been watching the What Went Wrong series, you will know what Ryan is into. He is not afraid of breaking a few eggs when making that omelette, which is called boat speed. All right, we got Max on board from Rosenheim, Germany. Just 6 weeks to go for Max until he's going to be joining us here at Wildwind Sailing Holidays in Greece. Very exciting times. And in fact, on that topic, very exciting times indeed, because tomorrow we are open. Oh, yes. I have to say, this last, what would it be, 10 weeks has been a very tough period on the Wildwind Beach. Myself, Ollie Smith and Ash, who you might have seen in some of the videos. Oh, actually, Ash was in the 7 Ways to Capsize video. We've been at it since the middle of February, basically ripping the place down and starting again. So it's going to be looking very fresh for anybody coming out, but hopefully you'll be able to see that in the upcoming videos as well. That's why there hasn't been so much coming on Joyrider TV of late, because I've just had so much on, just working down at the beach all the hours of the day, and then all that's left is time for a beer, bit of dinner, and then bedtime, so I could go and do it again the next day. Boom. But it does look nice, and we've got more of our boats which have been reconditioned, which the hulls look like new. They've got the black rubber grip, which we showcased quite heavily last year, and they are looking fresh, better than new, I'd say. We've got also tuning in, we've got Leland Lee. Nice to have you with us from Clearwater, Florida. Oh, yes. Kevin's on board as well. All right. Kevin says, I have to change the mast step of my Hobie 16. Is there a trick to get it off the Dolphin Striker? The cat is from the year 2000, and there's a lot of corrosion from salt. Yeah, it is going to be hard. What I would do is get a very, well, the first stage, if you're removing the mast step, if this is the front beam, then just have to see where the board ends today. So maybe I can shuffle him over a bit. There we go. There's the mast step. There's the central bar of the Dolphin Striker. So what you'd need to do first is, this is quite obvious, is drill out the rivets, the pop rivets that hold the mast step on. That is should be fairly straightforward just to do that. And then after that comes the tough bit. You could try, well, actually, before I say what you could try, basically the mast step is riveted on, but also this central post of the Dolphin Striker is actually threaded into the bottom of the mast step, and it is unthreading this, which is the real trick shot. So perhaps if the post is actually showing through from the top, you could just try leaving it with some something like some WD-40 in there for a bit, just on the off chance that some of it might go through and help things. But all you can really do is get some device of much leverage onto the mast step, and then you just have to try to unscrew it. That is the bottom line. The other part of the Dolphin Striker, this bar, so this bar goes through a hole in, this isn't a very good picture now, in the central part of the Dolphin Striker, so that should stop that from twisting. But it's going to be pretty brutal to get that mast step off. If it's from, even from 2000, that's only less than 25 years old. But that is going to be on there pretty solid. I suppose you could also try heating it up. If there's anyone from the science department on board, what we've got is stainless steel or inox going into cast aluminium. If you heated the whole thing up with a blowtorch, then what would expand more? Would the cast aluminium, because it's a softer metal, would that expand quicker than the stainless, meaning it would be easier to unscrew it? Put it in the live chat or put it in the comments below if you're watching this later on. All right, Ryan says hot, cold, hot, cold. So get it hot, then get it cold, then get it hot, then get it cold. I think that's what Ryan means. Yeah, so few options there, but good luck with that. And at least you're putting a new one on, which means if you do damage it in the process of taking it off, it's not the end of the world. All right, we got Jose on board. Hi, Jose. Great to have you with us. We did feature Jose in a previous episode of Show Us Your Cat. I think this is Jose who has the maybe it's the Hobie 18, nice yellow one with grey sails. He says greetings from Puerto Rico. Or as soon as the sea conditions improve, we return to sail. Nice. We've also got Phil on board in Paris, France. Great to have you with us, Phil. We got Hemmings Detail with us. Can my fat friends get on the trapeze? Ha! That is a very kind way of asking that question. If so, what is the limit? So we're talking about heavy people. How much weight can you put on the trapeze? Again, if we're not specifying which type of boat we're talking about, we're going to assume it's a Hobie 16. Apologies to any non-Hobie 16 sailors who might feel that sometimes on Joyrider TV, we talk about the 16 a little bit too often. But that is because, as I've said before, there are more Hobie 16s in the world than every other single catamaran put together. So that's why we talk about the 16 more often. But I think you can, hold on, let's, if we can start off in kilos and then we'll do a transfer into pounds, just because that's better for the way my mind works. You can definitely do 200 kilos on the trapeze. So that is if you're double trapezing, helm and crew, 100 kilos each. And now I know 100 kilos is 220 pounds. So that's 440 pounds, no problem. All right. So can we go up from there? Yes, I think we probably could. I think we could hit another 40 kilos out on the trapeze, bringing it up to, what would that be? 40 kilos. So that is 240 kilograms, which is 0.26 short tons. That is what my computer is telling me. Or 529 pounds. I would say that much weight on the trapeze is probably as much as you'd ever want to get out there. Now, the Hobie 16 has got quite a fat mast section, so it's very strong. If you were sailing a boat with a smaller mast section, perhaps like the Prindle 16 or a even a Dart 18. Dart 18 is single trapeze, of course, but then you wouldn't want to put that much weight onto the trapeze. If you're just single trapezing on your boat, then you could put more weight on the trapeze, and that should be fine. But there is no weight limit. It's basically if you've got a friend who you want to take sailing, as long as they've got the actual agility to get out onto the trapeze, then I would say it's unlikely if you're single trapezing it, they're going to be too heavy. Do, of course, make sure that all of your trapeze gear is in good condition, like especially what could be overlooked. If this is your trapeze wire, then you've got the hole in the end, there's the handle, then onto the through the hole, regardless of your system, you're going to have some sort of bit of rope here which goes onto the hook. It can often be overlooked that this bit of rope might need replacing. Yeah, so well worth replacing those ropes quite frequently, like every season, to replace, if you've got double trapeze on your boat, to replace 4 of those ropes. Each one is going to be, I don't know, no more than probably 75 centimeters. So less than 4 meters of rope. You could put some pretty nice rope on there. And what it does, as well as gives you that peace of mind that your crew isn't going to disappear into the water, it also makes your boat look really fresh. 4 new trapeze lines, that's fresh. Well worth going down your boat shop or chandlery and picking out some nice colors to put on there. Nice to put on different colors for the helm and crew, but at the same time, nice to keep them the same. All right, there we go. I think that is how heavy can we trapeze. All right, I'd just like to welcome Bob. Hello, Bob. And Bob has just joined the Joyrider SC membership scheme. Great to have you on board there, Bob. Yes, you can too become a member of the Joyrider TV YouTube channel. Just look somewhere for where it says membership. In fact, underneath any of the videos, there is a button that says join, I believe. And there we go. Great to have you with us, Bob. Thanks. It's a great way of supporting the channel without actually having to leave the YouTube platform. All right, and Bob says hello from sunny Claremont, Florida, outside Orlando. First video chat ever. Great stuff. Great to have you with us and for you to join. Sailed in 30 knots of wind last week. It was crazy. Didn't capsize, but I like you, Bob, and am attributing that to the fact that you've been watching plenty of Joyrider TV. There we go. All right. Jan Leo says you've skipped over my question. Well, that is because Bob just joined the Joyrider TV membership scheme, which immediately puts you to the top of the list. That is why. It's not, I wasn't going to ignore it, Jan Leo. I'm just coming on to that now. So Jan Leo says, what do you think about event pinnies? All right. Stretch vests on top of the buoyancy aid or PFD, thinking about getting a pair and printing the flag and sail number to intimidate other sailors. Yes, I think this is a fine question, and I'm glad I didn't miss it, to be honest, Jan Leo, because this is one of the biggest things that can improve your performance, and that is to have matching gear on your boat. Yeah, I think the Lycra over the top of the buoyancy aid, it was very popular back in the early 2000s for about 10 years. Very popular, just to put a rash vest over the top of your buoyancy aid. It kept everything enclosed. You can get a specially made Lycra top with actually a small hole which is put in it for your hook of your trapeze to go through. It does make it very contained, so you're not as likely to get snagged on things. Like one classic snag you can get is getting the tiller extension underneath the strap of the buoyancy aid. Now that can seriously ruin your day. So having the Lycra on over the top is very good. yeah, I stopped doing it personally because I just thought it looked pretty mean just to have the black buoyancy aid over the top of a brightly coloured shirt underneath. Thought that looked quite cool as well. It's all about fashion, of course, but most important, matching gear. So if you're going to an event this summer, make sure you've got matching gear. If you can't have matching gear while you're sailing, make sure you have got matching gear for when you're on land, because there's nothing that will intimidate the competition more on land than some very tasteful matching gear. And I'm not going to say it, but I think you know where you can get some. Custom. Oh, yeah. Thanks for your question, Jan Leo. Okay, and back into the preloaded question department. Another question from Declan on Patreon, who says, have you got any tips for tensioning trampolines? Now, I know that Declan sails a GETAWAY, which I believe would have a similar style of trampoline tensioning to most F-18s and Hobie Tiger, especially, where we've got a trampoline with curved sides like this. We have curved sides because that means we can get them tighter. And then at the back, if this is the back beam, we have what I like to call trampoline lacing nuggets running along here. And then down the edges, we would have, running inside the edges, we'd have a rope. Sorry, the rope would come out here, go through an eyelet, and then back to an eye there, both sides, of course. So the first big trick to getting your trampoline as tight as possible is, firstly, before you start tightening the trampoline, make sure that there is absolutely nothing on it. If there's anything on the trampoline while you're tightening it, you will not end up with a result which is as good. Get everything off it. Make sure there's nothing in your pocket. Make sure there's no ropes on the trampoline. Make sure there's not a cat on there. Make sure nobody's sitting on it. Anything at all, get everything off the trampoline. Second thing you want to do, if you want to get the best tension on your trampoline, is get it wet first. Really soak that bad boy, because when it's wet, what that does is it allows it to stretch more. So it will stretch more, and then when it dries, it will contract a bit, making it even tighter. Very nice. Also, by getting it wet, it will allow the ropes to slide it more easily, which is going to make it easier to get that tension on there. Yeah, so then what you need to work out is, do you firstly tighten the sides first, or do you tighten the back? Well, it doesn't really matter so much, but what is important is that your trampoline ends up right in the middle. The way that you can gauge that your trampoline is in the middle is most trampolines will have a hole, a kringle right in the center, and to make sure that's in the middle, you want to make sure that is lining up with the mast step. So if you're on your own doing it, by doing the sides first, it does make it more difficult to keep it central, because if you pull this one, the whole thing's going to slide sideways a bit. So what I would do is take a bit of tension on both sides, do a little bit on one side, then a little bit on the other side, just until you've got it so they're reasonably tight, and then start working your way along the back. So we've been through the trampoline lacing before in some videos, but what we do is it would go from the pole in the back up, and then it'll basically be like this, and there we tie it off at the end. And then what I find to be the most effective, two ways you could do it, is one is you could take your trapeze harness and use the hook on the rope there with the spreader bar from the harness and really crank it up. And then if you have got a friend or your crew who can help, then they get in just behind you with a pair of pliers to stop it from slipping back the other way, and just work your way along there like that. But what I found that works even better is to use a claw hammer. A claw hammer, for those who aren't familiar with the term, is a hammer which has this bit. So what I'm doing is hooking this bit under the lacing, making sure I've put some padding on the track so we don't damage the track, and then levering the rope. By doing that, we can get a tremendous amount of tension on there. One other thing to consider is what rope are you using for the tramp lacing. So if your trampoline is this style, so not like the Hobie 16 style with the lacing up the middle, but if it's this style of lacing at the back and the sides, so maybe like on a Tornado where you're lacing the sides, then using a Dyneema without an outer sheath. So I think, what is it called? Something like, is it called like something like SK78? I think Dyneema rope, probably a 3mm Dyneema rope like that. The reason why this is good is because it slides really, really nicely. So you can get a very tight trampoline indeed. All right. So there we go. I hope that helps, Declan. All right. We have got Larus971 tuning in from Guadalupe. Nice. Okay, we haven't had many people tuning in from that part of the world, so welcome on board. Great to have you with us. We've also got Gaz on board, who says, is it easier to write a Hobie 15 in light wind than a Hobie 16? Yes, is the short answer. The reason the 15 is easier to write than the 16 is basically the weight of the rig. The mast it's got to be getting on for 2 meters shorter on a Hobie 15. The sail's smaller on the Hobie 15 as well. So everything about the rig is smaller and lighter, which, yes, does make it much easier to bring back upright. Interesting thing with the Hobie 15, or if you're used to sailing something like a Hobie 16 or a boat which is like 2.40 meters or wider, if you get on a smaller boat like a 15, perhaps you're moving into the Aclass or a smaller boat like a Dart 15. What you've got to be really careful of when you capsize is not getting whacked on the head by the hull, because the boat is that much narrower. So the hull which was in air is much more likely to get you. So you just need to be really aware of that. All right. So Ryan says Nacra calls those trampoline backbeam nuggets battens. There we go. You heard it here first, unless you read it in the Nacra boat assembly manual, battens. But I call them nuggets because I like that. Right, we've got Philip on board. Great to have you with us, Philip. Philip, I believe, in Ireland. Ireland. Ryan says, Oh, I think this is trampoline lacing, tensioning. Use a climbing ascender to grip the rope and pull on it. There we go. Anything that you can put under the rope, get both hands and yank it hard is really going to help you get a tighter trampoline. All right, we got Mark and Janet on board from, he says crappy, cold and wet Ohio. Sorry to hear that your weather is not playing the game at the moment. Hopefully things will change soon. We got Kevin on board in Hamburg, Germany. Oh, yes. We've actually got a Hamburg, Germany sailor joining our team this year. His name's Lorenz. He sails a Tornado and is a frightfully nice chap. And he is very knowledgeable indeed. So if you come into Wildwind Sailing Holidays, you might actually get to jump on a boat with him. Very nice. Okay, next by the way, sorry about the pace if it's a bit quick, but got a lot of preloaded questions and I intend to get through them. So next preloaded question, and this one comes from Fred, who says, this is a Hobie 16 question. Tacking in light air, it can be a challenge because of the jib getting stuck on the mast. And then he finds that because the jib's getting stuck on the mast, he ends up messing around too much. And a lot of the time, the jib, this jib catching on the mast leads to the tack failing because it's so distracting and, quite frankly, a bit upsetting. So he asks, is there a smaller jib option, one that clears the mast easily? Well, I'd just like to say at this moment, thanks very much to Gaz for putting some money in the pot. This is very kind. Gaz used the super sticker function, which you'll find at the bottom of the live chat. If anybody else fancies chipping in, that would be very nice. But thanks very much to Gaz. And back to the question in hand. Is there a smaller jib available for the Hobie 16? Yes, there is, I think. Hobie Cat used to make, I'm not 100% sure if they still do, but they used to make a jib specific for rolling, and this jib was smaller, or if it's still made, is smaller and is less likely to get caught. Well, it won't get caught on the mast because it doesn't have any battens in it. No battens means that it's not going to get caught. So when we've got a jib without battens, so let's just have the standard Hobie 16 jib first. This is the mast. Standard Hobie 16 with battens overlaps the mast, and yes, those battens can get caught during tacking. So if we're having a jib that doesn't have battens, then it is important, like we were talking with the trampoline just now, is that the back edge of the jib has got what you might call a scoop out of it, where it curves inwards like this. Because if it hasn't got that kind of what we'd call a scooped leech, where the back edge is scooped like that, then it is going to flap. The back edge is going to flap. That's why you see some jibs which have just got short battens in the back edge to stop that flapping. But a scooped leech on the jib is really going to help. Now, if Hobie Cat, it's quite likely they're not producing these jibs anymore. There are many manufacturers of sails for Hobie Cats or of any catamaran who will be able to make you a jib for your boat which doesn't have battens in. They will know exactly the dimensions of the sail that you need to do. Someone like Whirlwind Sails, Salt City Sailing, OS3 here in Greece, or Forward Sailing in France, anyone like that will be able to produce for you a non-battened Hobie Cat jib, which doesn't catch on the mast. Now, if you have got this catchy jib issue in light winds, there are things that you can do to make it better. So first thing you can do to make it better is before you go into the tack in light winds, just loosen the sheet a bit. What that does is it puts more curve into the sail and makes it more likely, if we look from the top, how can we draw this? So when the jib is wind from the top of the board, of course. So when the jib is backed, if we've got more curve in the jib by easing the sheet, then as you can see, it looks like it's going to be less likely to catch on the mast there. And then the next thing we can do to stop the jib from catching as much is not trying to pull it across. If you physically try to pull it across using the other sheet, it is almost certainly going to catch, because the other sheet is going to pull the back edge, the leech of the jib, straight into the mast, and that's not going to be very helpful at all. So try to allow the wind to blow it across. That is going to work for you much better. And then if it does happen that the wind is so light that the jib does catch and it just won't go across, the best thing to do is to move forwards on the boat after you've come out of the tack and you're sailing forwards again. Grab the bottom batten of the jib, physically push that batten forwards, and the other battens will follow suit going forwards, and then that is going to get the jib across in the most effortless and least frustrating way possible. You could also, of course, when you're on land, just make sure that the back edge of your jib and the battens, if they do stick out, are not sticking out more than they need to. So there we go. I think there's some options there for you, Fred. I hope that is helpful. All right. Max is in the live chat. He's got some very good advice. He says, what about hitting the like button? Okay. So yes, if you could hit the like button, that is a great way of helping me to promote this video as it is, so more people will get to see it, because I like to think this information that I'm handing out right now is solid gold for catamaran sailors. Oh yes. And at this point, 38 minutes in, we're just going to take a short commercial break. Very nice. All right, so back in the live chat, we've got Trevor on board. Hello, Trevor, who says, just checking in to say hi. Never sailed before and have bought a Hobie Tiger. Woo-hoo-hoo! Great. Son has told me it's the way to go and will teach me the ropes. I'll keep you posted. Trevor is tuning in from Weymouth on the south coast of the UK. Great stuff, Trevor. Good luck to you. You are going to love it. As I've said before, one of the most important things to consider when taking out a boat which you're not used to, especially for the first couple of times, is try to go out in lighter winds to start with while you're getting used to it. So less than ideally what you want is between 5 and 10 knots of wind. And then if it gradually increases over the course of your session, that's fine. But perhaps a good thing to do when you're initially going out is just, or before you even leave the beach, is just think, just go through it in your mind and come up with a strategy for how are you going to approach the beach when you get back in. There we go. All right. So, and that brings me on to my next preloaded question, which is from Simon, who says this is actually on this kind of topic, and he would like to know how you can safely beach a catamaran on a rocky beach. I'm about to move my Hobie 16 to a new location, which is a beach of rocks, and would like to know what we can do about that. Okay. Sorry for the pause there. It's just a bit of admin as we go. So if you have got a rocky beach, the technique that I would use to get the boat onto the bit, well, the first and most ideal thing, because if you've seen any of the videos on Joyrider TV, you'll know that the beach that we sail from here in Vasiliki, Greece, is rocky, and we manage to sail on this sort of beach by using the big wheel launching trolleys. So the hulls of our boats are never dragged up the rocks, because that you might be okay, like with a 16 or something with this sort of hard hull, you'll be okay for a while, but after a while you're going to start grinding away the bottom of your boat, and it's not going to be, it's going to need reinforcement or a repair. So using a big wheel trolley is definitely option A and the best option that there is, because that's going to be the kindest to your boat. But if that's not available, like for example, if you've sailed away to another beach and you've noticed it is a bit stony and you really don't want to drag your boat up on those stones. So if this is the beach, big stones, then what I would do to get the boat up onto the beach, like we can set the boat down nicely, as long as it's not like some sort of volcanic rock where they're really like razor sharp, then what we can do is, with the boat close to the beach, we can then lift the bow of the boat up as high as possible. So as you sorry, and this is the water here. So by lifting the bow of the boat up as high as possible, it means the back of the boat is still floating. And then what we would do is move the whole thing so that the boat as high as possible is over the beach, and we're going to float the back of the boat for as long as possible. And then when it comes to the point where the back of the boat touches the bottom, then to lower the front down, and then if absolutely necessary, then give it a little slide, only if you really have to. Like if the water's not moving so much, or if it's not so windy, there's no waves, then you could leave the boat sort of half in the water, although maybe that wouldn't be the best for your peace of mind if you're staying for some time on that beach. With regards to the wind directions and how you would approach the beach, this will work if you've got your sails up. This will work only if the wind is in an offshore direction, or if it's kind of cross off. So if the wind is onshore or cross on, then you would want to lower your mainsail before getting your boat onto the beach. So there we go. That is what I think on that topic there, Simon. I hope that helps. Back to the live chat. Kevin says, just hit it. As always, Ben. Always solid. I have to refer back to what Ben said. Oh, I can't find Ben. All right. Yeah, apologies for not being able to remember what that was about. Anyway, Ryan says, so glad to catch the live chat at the beginning of the weekend. Alas, work is calling. Get that joyride this weekend. See you soon. All right. So Ryan is off to feed the bees. He just finishes by saying, lucky Trevor to have that tiger. Kevin says, nice, Trevor. Got me a tiger as well. Nice. Kevin says, Ben, I was wondering which grease I was used. Oh, I see. I'm Ben. Right. Okay. My name's actually Joe, and this is Joyrider TV. But anyway, and this is actually, is it a preloaded question or is it? Oh, it is a preloaded question as well. I thought it might. I'm just mumbling now. Sorry. So excited just to be here. It's been a long day. It's been a long couple of weeks. So Kevin says, I was wondering which grease I should use to service the rudder system. This is both a preloaded and live question. I did a bit of research on this as well because I thought I knew the answer, and I did know the answer because I'm obviously an expert. But what you should be using, the best thing you can use is a marine waterproof grease. Now, I know that sounds like it's going to be very expensive, but not necessarily. You don't need to use very much, and it is definitely going to be the best thing to use because the marine waterproof grease is designed to be used, as you'd think, in the water. Now, if you're servicing your rudders and you didn't pick up some marine waterproof grease, but you happen to have some normal grease is going to be better than no grease at all, because grease is waterproof just by nature, unless someone from the science department want to say that it isn't. But I think it is, because it's like if you've got grease on something, you try to wash it off, it doesn't wash off, it stays on there. That's my thinking anyway. So if you've just got non-waterproof grease, that is going to work as well, but the marine grease is best. Thanks for your question, Kevin. All right, Leland Lee says, today is my birthday. All right. I think we can all wish Leland Lee a happy birthday and hope that he's got some very good plans for the weekend. I want you all to celebrate with me by getting out and sailing this weekend. There you go. So, Leland Lee, it's his birthday. Get out and sail. Why not get on the speed stick at the same time? Very good. All right, we've got Alessandro on board with a question. How do I get new parts for models? Oh, hello. That Hobie Cat no longer produce. For example, I'm referring to the daggerboards or mast for FX1 or Tiger. Does Hobie Cat still make these parts? Yes, actually. Hobie Cat in Europe do still produce. They might not have, well, they almost certainly won't have the parts in stock, but they are able to supply the parts. I've got the prime example. We just at Wild Wind Sailing Holidays here replaced all of our Hobie Tiger and Hobie Pacific masts. Both the Tiger and the Pacific are discontinued types of boat, but we just got the order in very early, so I I put the order in back in, when would it have been? November, and took delivery of the new masts when we got the boats, which was sometime in January. So it just takes a little bit of time for the masts to be built, but the sections of mast used on all of the boats are still standard sections. So Hobie Cat will basically take the section, put all the fittings on, make sure that it's waterproof, watertight, and then yes, you can. The same thing goes for the daggerboards. They still do produce daggerboards, but they might have to make them to order rather than it being an off-the-shelf option. The other option is with the daggerboards especially, it is unlikely you're going to find a second-hand FX1 mast, but daggerboards in the FX1, you can also use Hobie Tiger daggerboards. They are the same boards, but on the FX1, they're just a bit shorter. And when you look at your Hobie FX1 daggerboards, well, this is me being a bit cynical, but I think what Hobie Cat have done, if this is the daggerboards, what Hobie Cat have done, they've taken a Hobie Tiger daggerboard and just cut the top of it off, because on the top of a FX1 daggerboard, it is very flat. It's not rounded like on the Tiger. So I think they've just chopped it off. But you can use Tiger daggerboards in an FX1. So check out Facebook Marketplace. Check out places. If you're in Europe, Hobie Cat Holland, very good for used boat parts, as are BNR Water Sports. Very good sources of used water sport boat parts there. All right, Philip says, on the topic of get your boat out of the water, sausage fenders under each hull. This is a great idea, actually. Yeah, so if you've got these fenders, sausage fenders, as Philip called them, they're the long sort of one, like sausage like, I suppose, and you just put them on the beach and roll the boat up on those bad boys. Easy and relatively inexpensive. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to go back to the preloaded questions, because as I said, I have got quite a few to go through today. All right, so this next one comes from Greg. Greg's got the Hobie 20 Miracle, and he's concerned about his rudder alignment. So the first thing is, how do we do the rudder alignment on a boat like the Hobie 20 Miracle? It's pretty standard for most boats of that sort of size and that kind of build. So what we'll do is we'll look from above like this. There's the beams, and there are the rudders. Now, when we're personally, when I'm doing the rudder alignment on, like, say, a Hobie Tiger, I will always do it by eye, and not by measuring it, because by doing it by eye, you get it in the sweet spot very quickly and easily, and it's just quicker. So what we do to get the rudder alignment correct on this type of boat is we'll have the rudders up, and we'll have one of them dead straight. So we're going to look from behind, and we're going to look along the rudder, and we want that to be dead straight, pointing at the bow. Very good. And then the trick here is when we go and look at the other one, we have to make sure it's not going to be windy and the rudder gets blown off being dead straight. If there are two of you, then get the other person to look at the other one. And then the other one, what we want, this would be on a boat which is like 18 feet long, 5.5 meters or bigger. If it's a smaller boat, this would mean you put too much tow in on your rudders, but you'd look from here, and what we want is that to line up with where the hull meets the bridle wire fitting. And what that does is it puts in a small amount of tow in, which means the front of the rudders are pointing in a little bit more than the back. And that is the optimal amount of tow in on this type of boat. Now, when Greg's been sailing along, he said he's got that amount of tow in, but he's hearing a lot of noise and gurgling coming from the back of the boat in light winds. Now, what that could be is not the rudder alignment, but it could actually be your trim. Trim meaning the crew movements on the boat, where you position yourselves. So what we never want to have when we're sailing is to have the back of the boat low down in the water, because if we put the back of the boat too low down in the water, then we are going to be dragging the rudders and too much hull through the water. If you think about the shape of the hull on most boats like this, the front part of the hull is very thin, pointed, and looks like it will cut through the water very nicely. The back of the boat is usually the fat section like this, which you think if you put that in the water, that is going to create drag. So if your weight is too far back on the boat, you're not only going to be dragging the hull, but dragging too much rudder through the water as well. And that is possibly what is causing that noise from the rudders. So what I would do is, if you are hearing a lot of noise coming from the back of the boat, just move forwards while you're listening, and you should hear that noise disappear when you get to a certain point up the boat. And you could think, all right, we're at a certain point now, it's gone quiet. That might well be the sweet spot. You don't need to go any further forwards than that. There we go. So I hope that helps. All right, we got Axel on board in the live chat, who says, I think we've had the same question the last 3 weeks, maybe, but he says he's going to look at a Hobie 16 tonight. It's from 1980. What do you think I should look at mainly? All right. I think we know the answer to this one. Okay, so first thing we're going to look at, I'm just going to be very brief here because we have talked about this in the previous weeks. First thing to look at is the hulls. We want to make sure that the hulls are not soft. If the boat is a very good price and there's a small amount of softness on the hulls, like on the decks, where if you push it, it flexes a bit. If that soft bit is very small and the price is really good, €3,000. Okay, $3,000. So that isn't, I'd say that's, if there's any softness on the boat, I think for $3,000, that's too much if it's soft at all. If, of course, the boat comes with a trailer, trolley, covers, that sort of thing, that all adds to the value of the boat. But yeah, checking the hulls. So push down on the bows of the boat. Look for softness there. If it might move a little bit, but if it moves a lot and if it makes a sort of crunching noise, then that would mean the boat is going to need some sort of surgery down the line. If all you're doing is sailing on flat water in very light winds, it's not going to be such an issue. But if you're sailing in heavy winds or in a rough sea, then if the hull is soft, this could actually lead to a catastrophic fail of the hull. So check for softness, go all the way around. Then the next thing we want to know is, are the pylons solid in the hulls? So the way we would check this is if it's just you and the guy who owns the boat, get the guy who owns the boat to pick one of the bows up off the ground. While he does that, just look for any difference in movement between the pylon and the hull. If they're moving independently of each other, then don't touch it, because that is going to require a major bit of surgery to the boat. Because what happens with the pylon is it goes into the hull, it's set in a block of fiberglass, and if that's moving, you're going to have to open the hull right up, and it's not going to be worth it. Yeah, so that is the biggest thing to check for. Everything else is kind of like quite I would say quite obvious, because you'll be able to see it. So like if the trampoline is solid, does it look really faded? If it looks really faded, if it's a PVC trampoline, then possibly it might have become a bit brittle, which means if you sit on it or stand on it, at some point it might just rip. But like I said, the last couple of weeks is a great upgrade for any boat is to get a new trampoline. And there's places like Salt City Sailing who are actually selling brand new trampolines for under $300. Amazing. And it completely transforms the feel of your boat. Of course, the sails are very important to have a look at as well. And like with the trampoline, do they look really faded? I'd say for $3,000, this boat should be looking pretty tasty for that age of boat. Yeah. So, yeah, also with the hulls, of course, have a feel underneath, or better still, if you can get the middle of the hull off the ground so you can have a look underneath, like here, to see if the boat's been dragged up the beach a lot and that it's got plenty of life left in it. That will be really valuable to do as well. So there we go. Check that the mast is straight. Ask about the rigging. Has the rigging been replaced recently? Not that that would be a deal breaker, but so that you know, if it hasn't been replaced in the last 5 or 6 years, you should really replace the shrouds and the forestay, because otherwise you just don't know when those wires might just let you down and your mast falls down. That could be a bad day. Yeah, so there we go. That is what I would look at for a starter. All right, back to the preloaded questions. And we've got one from Patrick. Quite similar to what Axel was just saying, but Patrick was going back a stage, and he says, I'm considering buying a second-hand 2007 Hobie 16, but I'm not sure if it's the right choice for me. I've got experience sailing a monohull and as crew on a keel boat, but I've never sailed a Hobie. Do you think I'll be able to handle it based on my experience, or is catamaran sailing more demanding? I would say, if anything, catamaran sailing is actually easier than monohull sailing. But the reason that people think that it's harder is because it does require different technique. But the reason that cat sailing is easier is because you don't have to worry about the balance of the boat as much. So if you're sailing in light winds, which to start with, like I usually say, you should do, then there's not much chance of the boat capsizing if the wind is light, even if you're sitting in completely the wrong place on the boat. Whereas with a monohull, if you did that, you would definitely be going for a swim. So it is easier. You do need to look at the technique more with tacking, especially. Yes, it is more important to use good technique to tack a catamaran than it is a monohull. But does that mean it's harder? No, just means you've got to use better technique. That's all. So yes, go for it. Buy a catamaran and subscribe to Joyrider TV, of course. Good question there, Patrick, I believe. Yes, very good. All right, we're getting there. In these preloaded questions. Back in the live chat, we have got Gregory on board. Nice to have you with us, Gregory. Just checking out the question. What do you prefer, trapeze harnesses with shoulder straps or just a seat harness? I'm looking for a harness and I'm not sure what to choose. All right, so yeah, there has been a bit of a trend, perhaps not recently, but there was for a period of trapeze harnesses that basically stop halfway up the back and don't have any sort of back support. Now, I would say if you are not sailing so much around a race course, if you're not racing, or if you're just blasting around, then the trapeze harness with no back straps is fine, because your stance is going to be quite different. So if that's the side of the boat, that's your foot. If you're just kind of blasting around on the trapeze, you're more likely to be having a kind of more of a sitting stance. Whereas if you're racing, and especially if you're sailing upwind hard, trying to really maximize the performance of the boat, you're more likely to be trapezing flat, what's called flat wiring in the trade. And if you're going to be trapezing like this, if you don't have the back straps, then you are working the abdominals a lot, and you're not going to be able to hold that position for very long. So personally, I use a trapeze harness, which is like a full trapeze harness, because even if, like, most of the time here in Vasiliki Bay, I'm just out there blasting, seeing how fast I can go, probably with more of this stance where I'm kind of almost sitting rather than flat wiring. But I want to have the option to do either. So if I'm going to be banging it upwind hard, then I can flat wire it, really get the shoulders out to get the maximum amount of weight out from the boat, pin it down, go faster. So it really depends on what you want to do. So if you're going for shorter sails, not so worried about the upwind boat speed, then the no shoulder straps is fine. You may be wondering, what is the point of not having shoulder straps then? Well, it's basically generally less bulky. There's less going on, but it is less bulky, and you may think you're less likely to get caught on things. But what happens is that, how can I draw this? if you are like kneeling like this to go under the boom, perhaps, so you're a bit bent going under the boom, what can happen with the trapeze harness, which doesn't have the back straps, is the harness kind of comes away a little bit here and can actually snag on the boom or the sail, that sort of thing. So that is a consideration as well. So there we go, Gregory. I hope that helps. All right, we've got Barry on board. Hi, Barry. Great to hear from you. It's been a while. He's just sending love and best wishes straight back at you with the love and best wishes. Great to hear from you. All right. So, yeah, Axel says, if I bought the boat, I would be sailing in 10-foot deep water. Would I need a mast float? Yeah, it will be a good idea if you're sailing in water that shallow to have a mast float, because you don't, there's, whenever you capsize, if you haven't got a mast float, there is a chance the mast is going to want to go down under the water. And it doesn't really matter what the nature of the bottom of your body of water is. It's not going to do your mast or your sail any favors if you're dragging your mast and your sail along whatever the bottom is made of. So yes, possibly a mast float might be a good idea. Yeah, Axel, do check out the video on things to check. I can't remember what it's called now, but I think it was like the used Hobie 16 buyer's guide, where I actually go through it all and how much is it going to cost you for each bit of the boat if you have to replace it. It's a very good video. There we go. All right. So yeah, we've been going for over an hour now. So if you could, no further questions, please, in the live chat. I've just got a few others in the preloaders to go through. So this one is from Ben, who says, this is a Hobie Tiger question. I know we've got some Hobie Tiger sailors on board today. That's nice. I'm a big fan of the Hobie Tiger, as you know, as you may know. I don't know if you know. He says, what's the purpose of the cord which runs from the bow tangs under the bridle wires? Okay, so this is what I call, little picture here, front beam, bow sprit, that's a hull. That's a hull, different shaped hulls on this boat, of course. So we've got our normal bridle wires, which go to the bow of the boat. Sorry, my pole finished a little bit short. And then we've got the bridle wires that hold the mast up. In fact, on the more modern boats, these bridle wires will go to the same point as well. And then what Ben is asking is, what are these ropes that go to the pole here? So what I call them is intermediate bridle wires. And what they do is they support that middle part of the spinnaker pole or bowsprit. What is very important for the survival, if you like, of your spinnaker pole is that it can't move. If while you're sailing, your spinnaker pole can move, so if it's flexing at all while you're sailing, especially if it's flexing upwards, then that means that the pole is going to break if you put much pressure on it. So what we need to make sure with our bowsprit on our Hobie Tiger, hold on, we need another picture. is, if that's the top of the hull, there's the mast. Sorry, let's draw in the hull. We want to make sure that the pole has got a slight bend in it, like that. Sorry, it's a bit wobbly. And that means that, God, this is a terrible picture. These bridle wires, the intermediates are tight, the front ones are tight, and we're getting those tight by pulling the line that holds it up tight. Now, when we're putting this little bit of bend into the spinnaker pole, what we don't want to do is pull that tight before we put on the rig tension. So the rig tension of the whole boat first, and then we set the spinnaker pole and put a little bit of bend in it. What that little bit of bend does, this is on any type of boat with a spinnaker pole, is it means that it actually can't bend upwards. And that is what we're trying to avoid. We don't want the pole to be able to do this, because as I said, if it does that, the metal is going to weaken and then it is going to snap. There we go. All right. Christian says, plus the spinnaker pole is good for jousting punctures of your enemy's sails. Maybe not around here. It's not. Okay. So I actually think that was it for the preloaded. So just finishing off with the live chat. We've got Matt on board who says, got my free, this is a top tip. Matt got his free t-shirt from Murray's. Yes, that's right. If you shop at Murray's, and I think the procedure you need to follow, Murray's, by the way, is probably the best stocked boat shop or chandlery for the type of boats which we talk about here. So it's in the USA. I'm not sure what the shipping would be like if you wanted stuff in other continents, but certainly if you're in the USA, it's got to be the best choice for boat parts. If when you're shopping at Murray's, put a t-shirt, the Murray's t-shirt, I think this is the procedure, in your basket, and then at the checkout, put in the code. I think the code is Joyrider, and then off you go. You are ready, and you get the t-shirt for free. Matt did it. He's now got a free Murray's t-shirt. They're nice t-shirts as well. And Matt agrees. That is the procedure. Great stuff. All right. Yes, we do, Kevin says, on the topic of the Tiger. He says, I just replaced those last weekend. Great stuff. Renewed. Same difference, I think. So there we go. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Unfortunately, I'm not going to have anything new significant over the weekend. But hopefully, now that we've finished the preparation part of the season at Wild Wind Sailing Holidays, I should have more time to start making some more videos, getting out on the water, hopefully. Oh, yes. All right, we've got Wojtek on board. I'm guessing maybe in Poland. Great to have you with us. Although I'm sure you've been here the whole time, but we have come to the finish now of this session. So thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks to Bob for becoming a member. Thanks to Gaz for the super sticker. And I'll see you soon with some more on Joyrider TV. Good luck to you all. Hope you have a great sail. Get on the speed stick because you can.